Hello, welcome to GOT. Today we're going to talk about the iPhone 17 Pro, and we're going to pit it up against a foldable. And yes, I said foldable. Some of you may be rolling your eyes out there thinking foldables are fragile. There's no way they can compete to a bar phone, and especially an iPhone. I think you may be surprised because in several areas the iPhone gets beat. Let's go. Now, I totally understand and feel the resistance from iPhone users out there. There's no way this legendary phone can be beaten by a foldable, something that has less than flagship hardware and cameras. Well, I've got news for you. It's not the same anymore. And as a matter of fact, Apple themselves have even gave into that idea, and they're coming out with their own foldable next year. So let's go through this video, and I challenge you to watch and see how they compare. And maybe this will even get you ready for that iPhone foldable if it's something you consider. So I'm going to compare these just like I would any other phone. We're going to start with the outside and looking at these things and compare. You can see they're both premium looking phones, and of course it's hard to not notice the Honor Magic, the large camera bump on the back. But besides that, they are both very premium, and they're both premium material. The Honor Magic is actually made out of titanium, and of course the iPhone went back to aluminum with their phones, so it's all aluminum unibody. You do not have a unibody deal here, but that would be kind of impossible since you have a two-screen system. Looking at the size of these things, you can see you've got a power button here and volume rocker arm. Of course, on the iPhone, you have your volume buttons here and then a action programmable switch, so you can program it to do what you want. And then there is nothing on the other side here except a hinge, but on the iPhone you have your power button and your camera button. So you got quite a few more buttons on the outside of the iPhone, which for me, I personally don't care for that because some of them get in the way and I press them by accident too often, but that's just me. Now, as far as the thickness of these phones, you could definitely see that the Honor Magic V5 is a little bit thicker when it's folded, but believe it or not, it's only 8.9 millimeters thick, where the iPhone Pro 17 or the 17 Pro is 8.8 millimeters thick. So barely thinner. As a matter of fact, we could do my famous level test on both of these. So now basically all you do is you put the level right there on the two of them, and wherever the bubble is leaning towards, you can see it's leaning more towards the Honor right there, and that means that the Honor is a bit thicker. And if you press on this just slightly, you can see it just lift up from the iPhone, so you could definitely tell that it's a little thicker. And then of course, if we go over here to the cameras, that's a whole nother story. It is quite a bit thicker when it comes to the camera. Now let's do some real comparisons between the two, and we're going to cover some misconceptions about foldables. And a lot of those were derived from the Samsung foldable because it was so narrow and thick in the beginning. But as you can see, they progressed quite a bit. One of the things that I really enjoy about the foldable is when you take it out of your pocket and you just touch the power button, it is on, as you just saw there, versus the iPhone. I touch the power button and power button's on the other side. Touch the power button, it comes on, but I do need to swipe to get it to come on, and there's the home screen. So there's quite a bit of difference there. You got speed here going on with the foldable because it's immediately turned on out of your pocket, and you can use the front screen. Well, if you look at this now side by side from the overhead, you can see that the Honor Magic is a bit larger than the iPhone, and that's because it's a 6.4, like we mentioned earlier, versus a 6.3. But one of the misconceptions has always been that the outer screen on the foldable is useless because it was so small, but that was Samsung, which they've corrected as well. But as you can see here, you've got plenty of surface. Now, I'm not going to get into iOS versus Android because that's a whole nother video. But on this, you can see they are both really good screens. And if you look at the brightness, I've got a video here, you can see outside the nits on both of these. I can get into specifics, but they're very close to the same outside. As you can see, that there's not a whole lot of difference. There's maybe a little more reflection on the iPhone simply because it doesn't have an anti-reflective screen protector on it, which is something you can remedy on any of them. Put an anti-reflective screen protector on there so they won't glare, but they are very bright outside. As a matter of fact, the iPhone is 3,000 nits versus supposed to be 5,000 nits on the Honor Magic, but I'm not really seeing that difference. And the other foldable there is the Vivo X Fold 5, which you can see it has an anti-reflective screen protector on it. So they're all three right about the same, and they look really great facing right into the sunlight. Now looking at both of these screens, you can see they're both very fluid, and They both have news feeds on them, which you could just scroll through really nicely. So there's a lot of similarities to these phones, just as there is a lot of differences. And I do have to say that iPhone has come a long ways with, being able to put in different widgets and the fact that they are stackable, just like you have here on Android. So that's a great thing. They're very competitive. So I would not say one functions better than the other, but that's just me personally using both platforms. One of the biggest misconceptions is here on the fact side of these phones is cameras, where folks say there's no way a foldable can actually compete with an iPhone. Well, I've got some samples here I just want to show you, and you could decide on your own. I have my opinion, but let's take a look at these outside photos. Okay, here we got two side by side. We got the iPhone 17 Pro right here on the left and the automatic V5 here on the right. Now, this is just a standard shot in my backyard using the standard lens. I have a 50 megapixel on the Honor Magic and a 48 megapixel on the iPhone. And if you look at this, the iPhone here, it does its pixel binning down to 24 megapixels. So this is a 24 megapixel photo when all is said and done, where the Honor Magic is a 12 megapixel. So you supposedly have twice as many pixels in the iPhone. And you can see the size is a little bit larger, and you can see here the image size is larger, because if we click over here, you can see there it's quite a bit smaller, but the file size is not that much smaller. So let's look a little closer at some detail in these images. I'm looking at the grass, and it actually looks like I can see more blades of grass here in the Honor Magic than I can the iPhone, even though the iPhone's supposed to have more detail. Maybe it's just a little more washed out. It almost seems like there is a haze on the iPhone here. Let's go ahead and zoom in a couple of clicks. 1, 2, 3, and move over here to this tree. 1, 2, 3, move to the tree. And let's take a look. The detail on both is really good. Actually, I see with my eyes more granular detail in the bark on the Honor Magic than I do the iPhone. The iPhones, you can see it, but it's not quite as detailed. Now, maybe the grass looks a little finer here on the iPhone. I don't know. This is just really pixel peeping, but as you can see, they're right there compatible with one another. So you can't say a bar phone takes better photos than a foldable at this point. At least that's my view. Let's go ahead and move on to the next photo here. And on this one I just used the 4 times zoom because the iPhone had a dedicated 4 times zoom. If you zoom on the Honor Magic, the dedicated is 6 times, okay, which is supposed to be 6 times is just as good as the optical, and on the iPhone, 4 times is as good as optical. But if you look at them, they look, very, very similar, just as clear as one another, I believe. And if we go ahead and zoom in a little bit on these 2, 3 clicks on this, let's get that little barn there, or my little storage, his bin. And we can see here a little closer, who is cleaner now? Well, to me, it looks like the automatic V5 is a little cleaner. And the why? Well, its zoom camera is a 64 megapixel versus a 50 or 48 megapixel over here on the iPhone. Now, the Honor Magic's file size is 8.7, but you can still see the image size is still smaller than that of the iPhone. The iPhone's image size is larger, but look at the file size is larger on the Honor Magic. I think it's just capturing more detail. And is it cleaner? Is it, that's going to be your own personal opinion. I think it is. It's definitely a little more colorful, and I think you can just see a lot of detail in both of them. So again, I have to stand by. I can't confirm that a bar phone takes better photos than a foldable when you compare the two of these. And let's go ahead and go to the next photo. And that's the last time I'm going to say it. You guys can understand what I'm saying going forward. Now, if you look at these two, these are, I believe, 5 times zoom on both of them. Or no, I think I went the 6 times zoom on the Honor Magic, and just equaled that on the iPhone here. So you can see on the iPhone, it dropped down to its, well, it's still using 24 megapixel, bending down to that. So, but its file size is a bit smaller. You go over to Honor Magic, it's still a little bit larger. The image size has even increased more on the Honor Magic. So the Honor Magic here is capturing more, and you got more color here. And to me, I just think still a little more detail in the Honor here than on the iPhone at this point. And so let's just go on to the next one. This is the actual 40 times zoom, which is the max on the iPhone. The max you can go is 40 times on the iPhone. You can go up to 100 times on the Automatic V5 with its 64 megapixel. But I just matched it at 40, and I think clearly the Automatic V5 is winning in this. It's not fuzzy, it's not clear. You can see a bunch of pixelating going on, and it's real blurry here on the iPhone. So we've got a winner over here on that 40 times zoom. And then I just want to do one more. This is a landscape shot. This is at 40 times zoom on the iPhone. This is out here near my countryside. You can see these beautiful homes on the hill. And I waited to show you what it looks like on the Honor Magic. Check this out. Quite a bit better. Now there is a lot of AI going on here, and you can see that here it didn't quite piece this structure together. You see here on the iPhone, I don't think there's much AI going on at all. And so you just have an overall blurry photo. But look at this lower home. This lower home looks really nice over here on the Honor Magic. Now, I wouldn't do a 40 times or 100 times photo, and to make it usable, but again, I'm just proving here that the Automatic V5 did really, really well. As you see there, you cannot differentiate between iPhone and these foldables at times, and I think at times you have to admit that the foldable does better. Now let's take a look at some night shots where you got the same thing going on. Now, for those asking about, well, what about night shots here? Well, here you have the iPhone on the left. You can see here, this is what's going on in a night shot. This is out on my patio. And the shirt I'm wearing is actually this blue color right here that you see on the right. So as far as natural, the Vivo did a whole lot better, and I think it's a much cleaner photo. This is on portrait here in my backyard. Then I got another shot. It's a really nice, beautiful shot down in my neighborhood. And I wanted to point some things out here. You can see here that the Vivo, I think, is much clearer. If you look at the bark here, you can see it's much more detailed down here in the red bark. Look at the tree. The tree is much more detailed, even down the way you can see the rock on this house down there is even more detailed. And we'll go in a couple clicks on both of these. Over here, look at that tree. Go in a couple clicks here. And you can see there's just so much more detail, and the coloring is much more natural where the iPhone adds, again, a little more warmer tone, and it's not as clear. You can even see that in these bushes right on up along the way. And if we look down here, down the street, you can see the blinds are much clearer on the Vivo. And then one last thing, look at these pine needles on the pine tree here. You can see they're much more defined on the Vivo than they are on the iPhone. So some of you may still say that this is personal preference, but this is just me showing you what the actual results are. You decide. Now here's a side-by-side video of all three of them. You make the call on what you like better. Okay, here's all three on video, and I'm just recording this video in my backyard. It's nice and colorful, got a lot of greenery in here, so you can see quite a bit. And we can see all the transition from shade to sunlight, see how they all do. So I think it's pretty good. Of course, I'm doing them all in portrait mode, that way I can fit them on the screen easier and you can see a lot more. So as you can see there, it's just hard to make that claim anymore that nothing can beat the iPhone or nothing can compete with the iPhone. Hey, I want to take a quick second and tell you how much I appreciate you for tuning into the channel as we talk about the iPhone Pro versus the foldables of today. Now, I hope you get something out of this video. And if you did, do me a favor and smash that like button down below, because it really does help out the channel. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on further content. Let's get back to the video. So let's talk about performance. And I know there's a lot of you out there saying there's no way a foldable could outperform the iPhone. And I think in a lot of scenarios that may be true. But let's check this out. What we're going to do is we're going to do a performance test. And what I like to do in performance tests, I do on all my comparisons, is I use a real world performance test to compare these things and not those apps, because those apps are just numbers and they don't tell you a whole lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this app. It's called InShot, and I'm doing it with it open here on the Honor Magic, just so you can see the difference in size. See, there's a huge difference in comparison to what you're working with. Now, the iPhone, the video I did in the backyard, it's 4 minutes and 18 seconds long, and it just took me a second longer, I guess, to turn it off here on the Honor Magic, so it's 4:19. So the Honor Magic's got a little bit longer video to deal with. Now, one thing people like to talk about is apps are not formatted for the foldables. That is true for the most part, but there are plenty that are, and you can force them to be compatible at times based on the software on the foldable. This one allows you to go full screen with it. So let's go ahead and take a look here. What I'm going to do is I like to first go ahead and do what's called an AI cut right here. You can see that. And when you do the AI cut, what it does is if there's any pauses in your speaking during a video, it'll cut out all those pauses for you to give it one straight video. There's the AI cut. And that's what we're going to run first. Let's see which one does it faster. And I'm going to go ahead and use a stopwatch on these. So I'm going to place that right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit these, and then I'm going to hit the start on the stopwatch so it could time it. So let's see how long it takes them both to go through the video. It's just a 4-minute video, and cut out the pauses. So 1, 2, 3, start, and let's see. And they're both running pretty good. The iPhone's nearly all the way through it already. It's at 45, 50, 60, 70%. Wow, the iPhone's really cooking along. So it's tearing apart the automatic. Well, not a whole lot of difference. And as you can see, I wasn't fast enough to hit that stop button on that stopwatch. Anyway, you can see that the iPhone actually performed it a bit faster than the Honor Magic, which is great. Now it's time to go ahead and save both of these. And what we will do now is I will export them both. And we're going to export them both into 4K, because you're going to actually see some of this video later. And 4K on both of them. Did I actually hit 4K? No, it stayed at. Let's go to 4K. So there we got 4K on all of them, 30 frames per second. MOV versus MP4. We got a gig right here, 1,000 megabytes versus 467. Let's equalize this. Let's go to MP4 on this one. Still says the same size, so I'm not quite sure why the iPhone is going to shrink it a little more. So maybe the iPhone is going to do it faster. So same thing. We're going to hit export and save, and I'll hit the start button. 1, 2, 3, go, start. Let's see who does it faster. Well, the iPhone's got a good start there. It's at 5%, 6%, but look at the Honor Magic V3. It's going a little bit faster. It's at 15, 16, 17. This is interesting, folks. The Honor Magic V5 is expecting a larger size file. It's 1 second longer of a video, and it looks like it's doing quite a bit faster. So let's go ahead and speed through this, get you the results. Okay, I'm slowing it back down here. Look at this. It looks like, look at that. Wow. Faster than half the time of the iPhone. So more than 50% faster than the iPhone in processing this video. We're going to go ahead and finish this out on the iPhone and see what kind of time difference we have here. Well, there you go. It's finally finished. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove some excuses, because there are going to be people that are going to say, well, it's because of this or that. Well, let's see. How many apps do I have open on this phone? Just the one. How about on this phone? Just the one. Okay. So I closed all the background apps as this happened. So they were both exactly the same setup. So why did it do faster on the Android? You all figure it out. I don't know. but I know that this has the Elite chip in it versus the iPhone having the A19 Pro. And you would think that it would be faster according to all the specs on paper and those silly apps out there that test the performance. But when you compare it on a real world test, the iPhone in this one, in my opinion, got slaughtered. Now it's time to talk about things that are beyond the iPhone capability when you come to a foldable. And this was what makes a foldable real attractive. You can see, of course, you got the larger screen, so you can see a lot more. So now let's just go into YouTube on both of these. As you can see here, you have a much larger platform to choose from here versus the smaller. And then, of course, when you watch the video,
you get a lot better screen. Rehash the decade-old argument, which is better, the iPhone or the Pixel?
Now, you saw right there immediately, you get a much larger format to watch the video in. But let's go ahead and take the iPhone, and if you hit this button right here, you can make it go full screen, and we'll turn it here. And I'm going to turn the volume down on both of these for now. And even here, it's still quite a bit larger on the foldable. And even if you pinch it in, you still got a much larger. And of course, if you want to go full screen, you could do so right there. Now, of course, if you have the iPhone Max, you have a lot larger viewing screen side by side to this. But that's for those people with the larger hands that like the larger phone. So when you look at this, you can see, and as far as the clarity, it's just right there. Now, another misconception is that you always see the crease on the foldable, which, as you can see, you do not. And look from the front screen, can you see the crease? It's hard to see on the good foldables. So it's not something that gets in the way. And even on those with deep creases like the older Samsungs, it kind of fades away over time, or even the Pixel. It's got a deep fold, but you don't really see it over time, especially when you're looking at it directly, as you can see here. And then, of course, something that you can do on a foldable is you can actually turn it as well, and you still get even a larger view. And then what's really nice about these foldables is the speaker placement. You've got one on one side on here, and then the other side one is on the opposite side. So you always got stereo. Speakers are here and here. So if you put this in front of you, because you have a larger format, you got a really good stereo sound. And even at this angle, you still have one on the left and one on the right. So you get a better separation of sound on a foldable. Now, laying it here flat on the table, we'll do a sound test. I'm going to put the microphone right between the two of them here, and we'll start off with the Honor Magic. All right. See there, you go down to my table cam, you can see the bubble is just leaning right there towards the iPhone. That means it's the taller one. 5, so it's just barely any thinner. And then the weight, this is 207 grams, and the iPhone beats it by what? It's 206 grams by 1. So that's... Because when you level it out by pressing this, you can see the gap there that appears on top of the Pixel. So now the iPhone is definitely a lot louder and a lot
to tell really which one is heavier. Actually, this does kind of feel lighter.
But of course, that is because it is a thicker shell. So it's got a little more echo chamber. So you do get better audio out of a bar phone than you do a foldable. But for me, I'm always using earbuds anyway. So that doesn't really matter, in my opinion. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this comparison is multitasking. You know, the foldables, that's what they're known for. You can multitask. You know, on the front screen, you can actually split the screen on these foldables. On the iPhone, you cannot split the screen. So maybe you can get a third-party app or something and split it, but you cannot open up 2 apps at the same time. Where on this one, it's so simple. You just open up a browser, sweep it here to the side, open up another. Now you have 2 browsers. Now I can continue on and show off and show you more things here. Like I say, I got a text message. I could tap this. Now the text message is right there on top, and I can shrink it down so I can respond to it later while I continue to browse and do my thing. Here on the iPhone, you got 1 browser, and that's it. Now, if I get a call or notification, yes, I'll get something up here in the dynamic island. But guess what? You have a dynamic island here too, believe it on the Honor Magic V5. So it works very similar. Now, if I haven't done enough to convince you that foldables are here to stay, well, Apple themselves are actually coming out with a foldable this next year. So they're convinced themselves. Let me tell you a little bit about that foldable. So iPhone's rumored foldable is supposed to be 7.8-inch internal screen, which is a little smaller than today's modern day phone. They've all increased their sizes to at least 8 inches. So I'm not quite sure why Apple is going to go smaller or start out small. They're not going to catch up with everybody right from the beginning. And here's the odd thing too, is they say that the external screen is going to be 5.5 inches in diagonal. Well, as you can see, this is 6.3, so that's pretty small. Now, there's also rumors that they're saying that it's going to be 2 iPhone Airs put together. Well, that can't be true either, because the iPhone Air is 6.5 inches. So if the external screen is going to be 6.5 inches, well, then maybe I can agree that it could be about the size of 2 Airs, because the 2 Airs together would definitely make that a 8-inch screen on the internal, because this is 6.4. So you can imagine if it was 6.5 on the external, the internal would be a lot better. So these rumors and these leaks, it's really hard to believe them and what they know is right. So I'm showing you all this not to confuse you, but just to get you to understand, you can't always believe the rumors. However, I know they're coming out with an iPhone because they've got the deal going on with Samsung. So the iPhone foldable will be out next year. What its specs are, we're really not sure. So now's the big question, and I give it to you. What do you think? Have I convinced you? Have you seen anything that got you to realize that you need to take foldables seriously? Have you been interested in a foldable for so long, just were afraid to pull the trigger because the iPhone really has you in their ecosystem? And I understand that. And so in that case, you may want to wait for the iPhone Fold. But I'm telling you right now that it's going to be a first gen, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be up there with all the current phones that are out there right now. And I've done all kinds of videos on these. And if you want to learn more about the OnManage V5, check out this video here. And I'll tell you, this is a good time to subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be a whole lot more content moving forward. And if you want to see all these different foldables compared, you'll check out my videos on my channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and God bless.